Good day, dear viewers. We continue to inform you daily about the most important news from the front. Before watching, I kindly ask you to subscribe so that more people can learn the truth. Let us begin with an overview of the situation on the front line, focusing on the Sumy direction. According to the latest data received over the past 24 hours, Russian forces have achieved a noticeable tactical success. First and foremost, it should be noted that, according to various sources, fierce fighting continues for the settlement of Kondratovka. It is reported that the Ukrainian side is suffering losses, while the Russian army continues to intensify pressure in this sector of the front. Additionally, according to incoming reports, Russian units have cleared about half of the territory of the village of Alexeyevka. Moreover, it is expected that in the near future, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation may officially announce the completion of fighting for the settlement of Vodolaki. A number of verified pro-Russian analytical channels have already updated their maps, reflecting the changes in the situation in the area of Yunukovka. Some of these sources have already marked up to 50% of Yunukovka's territory in the corresponding color, indicating the imminent conclusion of the battle for the settlement. It is quite possible that within the next 5 days, either a video confirmation featuring the Russian flag will appear, or an official statement from the Ministry of Defense will be made. Meanwhile, tension is rising near the main defensive line of Sumy, located in Sumy Oblast. This concerns the dense forested area between the city of Sumy and the Russian state border, where significant Ukrainian forces are concentrated. To be honest, it remains unclear how Russian troops will be able to overcome this difficult-to-pass area in the foreseeable future. Moving on to the Kharkiv direction, it should be noted that Russian troops continue to carry out massive strikes on the city of Chuhuiv, using Iskander-type missiles. Reportedly, starting from May 20th, several dozen strikes have already been carried out on this key location. Chuhuiv represents a critical logistical hub through which supplies are delivered to the Ukrainian grouping in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region, including the area around Vovchansk. In addition, the situation is escalating along the border strip, as well as directly in Kupiansk. Let us consider the dynamics in this area step by step. In the northeastern zone of the city, according to some military analysts, Russian forces have managed to advance and reduce the distance between strategically important points, the villages of Topoly and Troitske. As a result of the active offensive, Russian troops occupied a number of forest belts, after which they began preparations for an assault on the next 3 forested areas located directly ahead of them. These positions represent the next line of Ukrainian defense. In the event of a successful advance and full capture of these zones, the Russian army will be able to enter operational space and launch a further offensive westward with virtually no serious resistance up to the village of Dvorichenske. It is also worth noting that pro-Ukrainian sources have effectively acknowledged the beginning of the offensive in this sector, designating the territory around Stroivka as a zone of active hostilities, or the so-called grey zone. However, there is still no official recognition of the loss of control over the village, despite the appearance 2 days ago of videos showing an assault by Russian forces and the raising of the Russian state flag. In these videos, it is clearly visible how a Russian serviceman installs the flag, thus confirming full control over Stroivka. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian side has so far refused to acknowledge these facts. Let us continue examining the situation in the Kupiansk area. Let us recall that yesterday, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation officially announced the capture of the settlement of Kondrashivka. Following this, reports began to emerge about the possible entry of Russian units into Kupiansk from the northern side. Some analysts claimed that certain facilities within the city limits had already been occupied, but morning clarifications revealed that the issue was not about the southern direction, but rather about the capture of gas infrastructure, a fundamentally different situation. According to the available information, on May 31st, the Russian army consolidated its positions in the specified area and is preparing to continue its offensive toward the village of Holubivka, located on the bank of the Oskil River. It is in this sector that major battles are expected to unfold within the next 24 hours. With a high degree of probability, Ukrainian forces will be forced to retreat directly in the direction of Kupiansk. The city remains under intense fire. It is being struck with high-explosive aerial bombs, FABs, artillery and missiles. In response, Ukrainian authorities have announced additional evacuations of the civilian population. Furthermore, there is significant activation of Russian aviation in areas to the east of the Oskil River, that is, effectively on the Russian side. According to available reports, Moscow is preparing the next phase of the offensive, the goal of which is the complete encirclement of this operational pocket. Thus, the battle for Kupiansk, although not yet in its final stage, is already nearing its conclusion. Now let us move on to the most important section of the front, the Kostiantynivka direction. Over the past 24 hours, new information has emerged from Chasiv Yar. Reliable pro-Russian sources report that as of the morning of May 31st, Russian forces control more than 80% of the city's territory. Additional positions were taken in the Shevchenko residential area. Summarizing all the information received over the past 2 days, it becomes clear that Russian troops have managed to establish full control over the entire territory located east of the so-called Red Lines. This means that the Russian army is close to completing yet another major battle for Chasiv Yar, which opens the path to the city of Kostiantynivka. At this point, only a few residential areas remain in front of the Russian forces, and judging by the current pace, they will likely be able to advance through them rather quickly. Specifically, we are talking about the districts of Yuzhny, Zemlyanki, part of the Shevchenko area, and possibly half of the Chaktu residential sector. Thus, in order to fully complete the combat operations in this settlement, Russian forces need to gain control over areas located east of the so-called White Line. After that, it will be possible to speak of the completion of the operation in Chasiv Yar and, most likely, the beginning of a new stage of the offensive toward the northeastern and eastern parts of Kostiantynivka. Now let us turn our attention to the area between the cities of Toretsk and Kostiantynivka. Several analytical sources have confirmed the advance of Russian units on the ground in the area north and in the vicinity of Delivka. According to incoming reports, intense fighting continues along this section of the front. Russian forces are attempting to take full control of an important fortified area, while Ukrainian troops are launching counterattacks from the Delivka area, from the north, in an attempt to stabilize the situation. This sector is of critical importance from a defensive standpoint. If the armed forces of the Russian Federation manage to secure this area, Ukrainian formations will most likely be forced to retreat from Delivka in a northwestern direction, toward the village of Belohora. As for the so-called Cleven salient, according to data received over the past 24 hours, Russian forces have managed to advance along the line of contact, taking control of additional defensive lines. The battles for the northern and northeastern part of the settlement of Zarya are nearing completion, and it is likely that in the coming days, the Russian army will finish the operation in this area. In addition, it is known that the Russian army has continued its advance on the western flank of the Cleven salient, seeking to approach the village of Yablunivka from the south. Overnight, additional forest belts and field fortifications were captured. Offensive actions also continue in the area between the settlements of Yelizavetivka, Malinivka, and Myrolyubivka. According to the received information, Russian units have achieved significant progress from Yelizavetivka toward the northwest. According to pro-Russian sources, as of the morning of May 31st, all the territory located below the conditional red line is under Russian control. There is a noticeable reduction in territory held by the armed forces of Ukraine, and it is likely that in the very near future, the remaining Ukrainian forces will be forced to retreat toward the village of Mykolaivka, most likely via the remaining forest belts. All indications suggest that this withdrawal may occur within hours or days. At the moment, the Ukrainian side is holding the last and largest fortified area in this sector, a key armored base, which plays a crucial role in the defense of this direction. The loss of this fortification would signify a complete collapse of Ukrainian defenses in this pocket. Now let us move to the South Donetsk direction. Today, new and highly significant information has emerged. Most importantly, Russian troops have advanced toward the village of Alexeyevka from the east. At a minimum, they have managed to improve their positions, and according to several sources, including a report from the 46th Airmobile Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Russian fighters are controlling up to 2 streets on the eastern outskirts of the settlement. In a video that surfaced online, It is visible that the Ukrainian side is actively using drones to repel attacks, while Russian forces are attempting to break through into Alexeyevka from the east. One of the recorded episodes took place precisely in the eastern part of the village. Based on geolocation, it can be concluded that at present, Russian forces are holding at least 2 streets and are continuing their advance westward. Additionally, according to available data, the Russian army is advancing in this area from the south, from the direction of the village of Bohatyr. Additional confirmations of geolocations in these directions are expected soon. Simultaneously, attacks from the northern and eastern sides continue, gradually narrowing the evacuation corridor for the Ukrainian side. The battle in this area remains active and will likely enter its final stage in the near future. The offensive is also ongoing in the area of Kamara. Several reliable sources have confirmed that the village of Vesele came under Russian control the day before. It should be recalled that a video was previously published showing a Russian soldier raising the Russian flag in the northern part of Vesele, which became direct evidence of consolidation in this area and further advancement to the north. As for the southern front, directions such as Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, or the Huliaipol area, no significant changes or confirmations have been received over the past 12 hours. According to available information, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham arrived in Kiev yesterday on an official visit. During his visit to Kiev, he called the upcoming meeting between Russia and Ukraine, scheduled to take place in Istanbul on June 2nd, a farce. He also stated that Ukraine is not losing this war. In his words, this is Russian propaganda. Look at the map from a year ago and compare it to the current one. It has hardly changed. Furthermore, Lindsey Graham stated that he has prepared a bill that is already supported by 82 U.S. senators. According to this document, all those conducting trade relations with Russia will be subjected to enormous tariffs, around 500%. Clearly, this would be a powerful blow to Russia and its allies. Additionally, within the first 24 hours, there were further statements from the President of the United States, Trump, on Putin. "I know him very well. We've been through a lot together. I was very surprised when they began launching missiles at cities like Kharkiv, right when I thought we were close to reaching an agreement and resolving the conflict. I am very disappointed." This is a statement from the President of the United States of America. However, on the other hand, Washington continues its policy of de-escalation and partial lifting of sanctions against Russia. On May 20th, a document was published on the official website of the U.S. Department of Justice about initiating the procedure to remove the CEO of Rostec, Sergei Chemezov, from the sanctions list. Thus, we see that on one hand, the United States is tightening the noose around Russia and its foreign economic relations, but on the other, does not want to completely sever ties with Moscow. At the same time, Russia is preparing for a protracted war with Ukraine. According to received information, as well as Ukrainian sources referencing satellite imagery, since the end of March, construction work has begun at the Engels II Air Base in Saratov Oblast to expand parking areas for military aircraft. It should be reminded that Russia uses this air base for strategic aviation, such as the Tu-95 and Tu-160, to launch strikes deep into Ukrainian territory using Kh-101 type cruise missiles. We see that Russia is trying to strengthen its positions for more active use of these aircraft and missiles in the future. Additionally, various reports continue to emerge about cooperation between Russia and North Korea. According to obtained data, since the beginning of 2024, North Korea has sent more than 9 million rounds of ammunition of various calibers to the Russian Federation. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and stay up to date with all the latest updates.